My wife at 43 and I am 45 have been sleeping separately for years. This has become a problem for her. My wife and I have been married for about 20 years and have had the typical ups and downs. Recently, though, conflict over sleeping arrangements that began about 7-8 years ago have created a wedge between us. When my wife and I married, she would occasionally snore. It was something I noticed once in a while but really no big deal. About 7 or 8 years ago, her snoring got to the point where I was essentially not sleeping if I was in the same bed as her, for a number of reasons. However, she was resistant to talking to a doctor about the problem, so simply to avoid exhaustion, I began sleeping on a futon couch I had in my home office. I honestly didn't mind, and my wife generally seemed to be understanding. After about 4 years of this, my wife's parents were diagnosed with sleep apnea and I kind of forced the issue with her about seeing a doctor, and it turned out she also had sleep apnea. She ended up with a CPAP machine that was almost as loud as the snoring, but was able to work with her doctor to find a model that was quieter and that I barely hear. The problem is, though, that over those 4 years before the diagnosis and the year or so of finding a CPAP that was quieter, I became used to sleeping alone, and I find it distracting difficult to sleep with her now. Even though the original problem is solved, nothing about my feelings toward my wife have changed, but she interprets this as my rejecting her. I get that, but I genuinely find it difficult to fall asleep now if I am in bed with her after so many years of sleeping alone in the same house. What should I do? Too long didn't read. My wife had severe snoring caused by undiagnosed sleep apnea. I ended up sleeping alone for years. I want to continue sleeping separately. She does not. What should I do? You have a sleep habit. It probably took you time to get used to sleeping with her when you got married, and it probably took time to get used to sleeping in your office. It will likely take time to get used to sleeping with her again. I think sleeping alone was probably something she always disliked, but had understood why it was happening. However, I do think there does need to be a bit of a give on your end as well. It sounds like she has gone to some lengths recently to fix the problem, including going back to find a new machine. While you cannot be expected to go back to normal overnight, I do think you need to have a frank discussion, but also slowly start to make an effort to find a new normal on your end as well. Maybe try spending nights you don't have to work the next day with her. Aim for 1 night a week or something. Just show you're trying to make effort too, but make it clear it can't be 24/7 right away. Try sleeping with her on weekends for sure. Before you lived together, you probably didn't have the best sleep during sleepovers either, but it didn't matter because you enjoyed the extra time together. Just show her that you still like her enough for an occasional sleepless night. LOL. Footing this. My husband and I started sleeping separately after I started grad school because I am often up late studying and I found it hard to wind down afterward when I needed to tiptoe around him and not have the bedside light on. He asked if we could start sleeping together again, so now we do it most weekends. I sleep worse, honestly, but it's worth it to show him I love him and for how lovely it is to wake up together. I mean, won't you get used to sleeping with her over time? You can also try getting a bigger bed and a nicer mattress, and a white noise machine. Actually, the sound you want is brown noise, which doesn't have the higher frequencies. It's the sound a fan or waterfall makes. My husband and I have separate bedrooms. It has saved my sleep and my mental health. He uses a CPAP and is a restless sleeper. I am a light sleeper and struggle with insomnia and staying asleep. After my sleeping on the couch for a year, we rearranged our house to allow me my own room. As much as I'd like to have the intimacy of sleeping together, we just don't work together sleep-wise. I am far more comfortable in every respect having my own room. You can even try spending quality time in bed before both of you go to sleep. Commit to an hour of wind-down cuddle time for the first few nights and then just see how it goes. Can stick to that hour and have an agreement that that's okay for now. Or you could stay longer if it feels right. Over time, that hour will transition to more time as the comfort level comes back up. Or you might even just fall asleep before the hour is up. Build back up that feeling of intimacy. It's understandable not to happen overnight. She feels rejected and that something is wrong. Most likely because there is a lack of intimacy, lack of connection, lack of feeling close to you. Ask for flexibility and have a straightforward conversation. Heck, even laying in bed with her head on your chest while you tells her how you feel, she'll most likely appreciate that so much. Even saying I'll stay in bed with you until you fall asleep, then I'll go to my own bed. When we wake up, I'll come in for 20 minutes of cuddles before we start our day. Or when you wake up, come to me for 20 minutes of cuddles. Whatever works for your situation. Speaking as someone who would be very unhappy with a separate sleeping arrangement, I gotta say cuddle time isn't going to cut it. After everything the wife went through to fix the issue, I don't think anything less than OP just sucking it up and sleeping together will work. I imagine the CPAP machine is taking some getting used to for the wife as well. He will get used to sleeping with her again. I am surprised anyone is entertaining anything different. Throughout history, people who could afford separate bedrooms used them. We're living in a weird bubble now where the symbolism trumps practicality. If you like sleeping apart, keep it up. It's a game changer in my opinion. I am sure it took some time to get used to sleeping with your wife when you originally got together. It also might have taken some time to get used to sleeping alone. You'll get used to sleeping with her again. Put some effort in and accept it's going to take a bit before you can sleep easily through the night. Or tell your wife you're not interested in sleeping in the same bed as her anymore and let the cards fall where they may. But you might want to start researching lawyers if you go with this approach. Get a king-size bed, big enough to give you your own space and still be able to meet in the middle for cuddles. Came here to post this. I was in the same situation as OP over my husband snoring. Only slept apart a few months until he lost enough weight to stop, and the adjustment to sleeping next to him again in our old queen-size bed was incredibly hard. Bought a king and everything was fine almost instantly. Our issues are not as specific as yours, but my husband and I are complete and utter opposites when it comes to sleeping. It was an issue for years. We tried straight up sleeping in separate bedrooms, and while the sleep was better for both of us, we eventually started to notice a distance we didn't like. We went back to sleeping in the same bed, and we were both miserable again. We eventually tried sleeping in separate rooms for 2-3 nights per week. That's been great for us. We get a few nights all to ourselves, and we actually began to look forward to the nights we resumed sleeping in the same bed. It wasn't immediate, there was an adjustment period, but it has worked wonders for both of us. From some of the comments here, it seems like this might not be a welcome thing for people to hear in this space, but my husband and I sleep separately most of the time. We have separate bedrooms. We cuddle together in bed or elsewhere. We are still sexually active with each other. We sometimes sleep together if either of us really need the comfort of another person. Occasional nightmares or anxiety, for example. Yet, for the sake of better sleep overall, we usually sleep completely separately. I have a different sleep schedule than he does, and when we're in separate bedrooms, I don't have to worry about disrupting his sleep or vice versa. He sometimes snores. I am a light sleeper. Separate bedrooms means I am rarely kept awake by this. I have fibromyalgia. It's very painful for me to lie still, so I shift a lot during the night. Separate beds allow for the space and freedom to do that. He sweats a lot at night and prefers a fan directly on him. I have an issue where my eyes don't close fully and literally cannot have a fan on in my room at night because of the resulting eye dryness. Seriously, the list could go on. Here's the thing, it's completely okay and can be very healthy to sleep separately from your partner and should be normalized, especially since it's often ableist to insist otherwise. However, both parties in a relationship do need to be on the same page. If you have a talk with your wife, explain how you feel about the situation and try to articulate detail that isn't only habit-based. Ask her to articulate to you her reasons for wanting to sleep together. Talk it out. Quite possibly, you'll want to compromise with each other. However, if it's really just that she has an imposed by society idea that the only healthy relationship is one that involves sharing a bed for literal sleep, then maybe you can both look into healthy examples that say otherwise. Relatable. My SO and I don't currently live together, but we've already discussed the fact that if sleeping together doesn't end up working, we're okay with sleeping separately. Both of us are insomniacs. Both of us toss and turn. He snores, and I am an insanely light sleeper. If it works out, great. If not, we understand it's no hard feelings. Sleep is kind of important, and OP should explain it's nothing that reflects his feelings on the relationship. I am in the same boat. My husband snores and likes to stay up late. I have to get up early. Our sleeping together just leads to me being tired and resentful. He's moved to the spare room, and now I find it difficult to sleep beside him even if he doesn't snore and comes to bed at the same time as me. I feel that the years of stressing about sleep have caused a bad habit. However, last week we had friends stay, so he couldn't sleep in the spare room. I took magnesium and sleeping tablets and slept fine. Hopefully we can sleep together again full time. In my marriage we had this issue. I resorted to wearing earplugs. Actually, just one because I am a side sleeper. It did the job, so maybe give that a try. Also, maybe you could compromise and sleep in the same bed on weekends or something. This, if the noise of the machine or snoring are making partner sleep bad. Earplugs are solution. A P is basically saying that he feels more comfortable sleeping alone. Basically, it is more convenient to him and doesn't want to give it up. There are so many solutions, but OP is trying to find a way to have a cake and eat it too. His wife was okay with him sleeping alone, and she most likely didn't want it, but understood why it affects his sleep. She gave up her need to sleep together for benefit of all. Now she has a machine, but OP doesn't want to give up being comfortable. It sounds kind of selfish to me. I had ex married who snored horribly. I could sleep with him only if I would fall asleep first, but that rarely happened, so we ended up sleeping separately because, well, people need to sleep. I'd still try to stay with him, and if he fell asleep first and started snoring, I'd go to another room. With time, we started sleeping separately. I don't claim that separate sleeping was reason why Maria fell apart, but sure as heck didn't help. When I moved in with my BF 2 years ago, it took nearly 12 months to adapt to sleeping together. We still sometimes sleep apart, but we just took it slow. Started out the night together where possible and moved if sleep just wasn't happening. We're both over 30, so we aren't as flexible about sleep schedules the way we were when we were younger, and sleep is just too important to roll dice on. Married 32 years, and we don't sleep together. When we started sleeping separately, we were living in a multi-generational household to take care of his dad. He had all of his electronics in the room we used for just our little family of 4, and I had mine in our bedroom. Not ideal, but we just didn't have room to spread out. My husband was an EMT and worked the graveyard shift, so in the mornings he would chill in our living room on his computer or watching TV while I was still asleep until he fell asleep on the couch. I have MS, and when we now try to sleep in the same bed, I wake up in extreme pain from not being able to move at night because he sleeps like a starfish on a queen-sized bed. I get the area under his arm and above his leg in the star. It's just not enough, so I wake up barely able to move in the crab, so he sleeps on the couch. We make time for intimacy though, never close to sleep. We use the time we are awake for a connection, or cuddle watching TV together, and at bedtime we both get the much-needed rest our bodies need. Communicate with her, work on ways that affirm your intimate connection outside of bedtime. So my answer advice is kind of based on affordability, and I'll start by saying sorry for that, but my parents just went through something kind of similar. Dad snored for years, loud enough that I could hear him in my room down the hall at times. Mom was getting no sleep. He moved into the basement bedroom, got diagnosed with sleep apnea summer of last year, and got a machine. Snoring fixed overnight essential. The problem that arose was that my dad found the bed in the master bedroom so uncomfortable that he woke with back pain, so they bought one of those king-sized beds that are basically 2 double beds in one. Back pain is gone, and the bonus is that when one of them moves or gets out of bed, the other can't feel it. I don't know how much it cost, but they are now sleeping in the same room again after years of sleeping apart. Do not sacrifice your sleep. Do what you want here and best for you. Sleep isn't something to be taken lightly, and ignores societal pressures that you must sleep in the same bed. You can try a bigger bed if it's small, or 2 separate beds in the same room. You've confirmed your reasons for wanting to sleep separately and that it's not hurts you. You need to make a decision here and then that's the end of it. If it's to do a trial run, then set a time frame and do it. If it's to sleep separately, then do that. No one here can tell you what's best for you and your life, but leaving the door open and going around and around with the same arguments is like a broken pencil, pointless. What is her main gripe? If it's that she doesn't feel like you two share enough time together, then make that the priority. If she would feel better with some cuddling or intimacy while she tries to fall asleep, offer that and then retire to your futon. Sleeping in separate beds is probably not the real issue here, since she's unconscious for 95% of the time you would be sharing with her while asleep. My wife and I went through a similar thing. What solved the issue was that we got a new bed, and I pushed to get a CA king bed that is both bigger than our queen bed, but also is 2 separate twin beds pushed together, so her thrashing around while sleeping doesn't bother me because she's on a separate bed. Not sure that's an option for you, but it has really helped because we're basically sleeping separately in the same room bed. I was wondering if anyone else would suggest a split king solution. My BF and I spent 2-3 years sleeping separately. He's the snorer, but But when we bought a new bed, we purchased 2 twin XL mattresses foundations and put them on a king frame. We also have separate bedding, so no fighting for covers in the middle of the night. We don't have a TV in the bedroom and the tech charges across the hall. I've only had to bail to the sofa once in the past 2+ years. This separate beds and bedding was a game changer. Yeah, that's our situation basically. Except we splurged and got the adjustable bases with remotes so she can raise my head up if I am snoring, and when she thrashes around, it doesn't shake my whole bed too. The only blankets we share are the comforter, and she kicks it off right away, so there's no tug of war for it. My husband and I have a very similar problem. During pregnancy and after having babies, I slept so light that everything woke me up. He also snored, which made things extremely difficult for me. I am the type that once I am awake, I'm up for 2 hours. Fast forward and he's at a point where he's not drinking and lost weight, so the snoring mostly stopped. I still wake easily, but it's a little better. I occasionally sleep in a separate room, which causes emotional concerns. Fast forward to 6 months ago and he gains some weight and develops restless leg syndrome. It's impossible to sleep with him and he barely sleeps. Now he's sleeping on the couch because that's the most comfortable these days. But last night he slept in bed. I slept horribly. It's such a struggle and I don't know how to fix it either. Here's the thing. I personally believe that good sleep is extremely important. Neither partner should demand the other lose out on something really essential like sleep. But what you can do is decide that your partner's needs are important and sacrifice from time to time. Maybe on the weekend or when work isn't too stressful, where a rough night's sleep won't be an issue. My boyfriend has sleep apnea and I have been able to adjust my sleep routine to be able to sleep near him. Takes a bit of time, but I actually am sleeping more through the night now. In other words, you just have to practice and slowly get adjusted. Psychologically, your mind associates your wife with distractions, disruptions, lack of sleep. Your mind is on high alert. You have to train your brain to associate her with being able to sleep. The association you have now is psychologically keeping you up. Hello, I haven't seen any suggestions for white noise yet, but it really helps my SO, who is someone who struggles with sleep and is bothered by my breathing in the night. We use rain sounds and it's nice. It may help with the CPAP noise. Other suggestions about a big bed with 2 blankets might help you acclimatize to sleeping with someone after a long time alone. It does sound like she's undergone a lot of change, likely with the expectation that you'd be able to sleep together again, so I can understand her frustration. Good luck. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.